Prop,
Yes,
it's good to have you here, man, at the Legacy once again.
glad to be here.
Remember the year my wife almost killed you?
I do remember that.
Several years ago.
How was this? Please explain real quickly.
She gave me an antibiotic and I had an allergic reaction to
Oh.
it. And I
Well, he was in Africa and he got bit by a
got bit by a
tick.
tick.
And he was going to die.
Yeah.
So,
She actually saved my life because if I wouldn't have had an allergic reaction to that pill, I wouldn't have went to the emergency room for them to figure out that I had a tick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
you would never married your wife and, wow. So, Baraka, it's good to have you, man.
I'm here, bro.
Back
I'm here.
once
yeah.
again.
Yeah.
That transition, amazing. But yes, I'm
Yeah,
here. Thank you.
We're like best friends.
We are best friends.
But yeah, we just want to have a discussion on politics. Obviously, right now, as we're recording, just a few months leading up to the two great options
Yes.
of Trump and Clinton, and so now obviously within the Christian circles, right? You really have those on the Republican side that can understand why a Christian would vote Democrat. Because they're for abortion and so forth, and those on the other end, I can't believe you're Republican because they don't care for the poor and so forth.
Yeah.
What do we do with that as a church?
I think, if you don't mind me jumping in.
You got it, bro. I'm here with you.
I think it speaks to it's a sort of a symptomatic of a bigger problem, and I think the bigger problem is our identity structure and like identity formation. I think that's the part that, like, as a believer, let me speak specifically to sort of white Western evangelical sort of structure. You don't have to wrestle with identity. You're like, from here it's like a person is American, right? And the hard pill to swallow for the American Christian, it was like I wasn't born a believer. I was born black. That's what I was born. You know what I'm saying? And just all the different spheres of identity that we exist in. I'm a black man, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, you know what I'm saying? I'm an uncle, I'm an American. And so all these, understanding that all those things are my identity. So but if you attempt to compartmentalize who you are to one sphere, then now you're pushed into a corner. And when that identity starts bucking against your other identities, you feel like you're forced to make a choice, but the choice should not be which one of these do I ride with. The choice is I shouldn't have aligned to a structure anyway. So if you take your political stances and denigrate them down to right wing or left wing, you're missing the point and you're ignoring the totality of the personhood that you are. And that's the same thing that happened when you came to the cross, right? When you came to the cross, the totality of you came to the cross, and all of you became a believer, and all of the things that make you what you are now bathed in the light of of Christ, right? So if you say, how can a Christian vote that or that, means you don't understand your own identity structure. You know what I'm saying? So you should step back and say, I am more than my political party. I'm also more than my neighborhood. I am more than, I'm saying? I'm more than these things. All these things make me who I am. So when you do that, you can bounce between any of these sort of man-made structures and make decisions that affect the totality of your personhood rather than an allegiance to one of these boxes.
Yeah. To speak to the structure, I think, like to add to that point, I think Prop, like anybody understands, like other than the education system, well, first, you look at every major institution, you look at every kind of inventive thing that has come to pass, like it evolves, right? Things evolve. You go from the industrial age to the technological age. You go from us, sending mail through Pony Express to us being able to text one another, from us imagining what someone looked like to now we're being able to Instagram within seconds. So technology evolves, but the two institutions that have a problem evolving is the education system and the political system. And so when you talk about having to pin yourself within these binaries, it's problematic. Like, we've had a two-party system pretty much 8 years since the creation of the United States, and it hasn't evolved yet. And so in a sense, if you want to be expedient or if you want to get things done, you have to go within these structures. I mean, you can try to be a libertarian, try to be Green Party, you could try to be independent, but it doesn't take you much. Take you many places. And so what people have to do is almost like they have to believe in this false choice, very similar to what Prop was saying. It's like, well, I have to denigrate my identity to this, because in order for me to feel validated within the convictions that I feel, I gotta lean right. Or in order to feel legitimate with my compassions, I have to lean left. And the Christian should see that as problematic, because like you said, we're very dynamic people. And if we are dynamic people, then we know, one, our belief systems don't waver, because even though the world becomes postmodern, we don't change with times. Our values are very classical. So no matter if the world progressed, but we do understand how to discern the times and move within it. So all that to say, I think it's expedient because of the system and the structures. And what we have to do is be able to begin to be subversive and change the structures and place people within the system so that we can change them. I mean, that's other than what he said about identity. I think you have to evolve the structures that are in place.
So the two-party system, right? Assuming that will stay moving forward for the next decades and so forth.
And those parties in themselves, they evolve.
With
You know what I'm saying? Right?
themselves,
Yeah.
Because even the Republican, right? Like this election, we're not hearing really about abortion or sexuality, marriage rights, and so forth, right? So even the Republican Party seems to be changing kind of their talking points, right? So there's this involvement. So then as a Christian, how does a Christian then determine, okay, here are two candidates, right? And most Christians would probably say, I don't really like either one of them, or I don't feel the strongest about them, right? So what does a Christian then do? Because often we hear the term, just pick the lesser of two evils, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot has to do with understanding that sort of one, humans, you as sitting at the table, are as complex as the person who's on the platform they have to choose from, right? So the person is very complex. You're not gonna get, the life's not comic books. Like, bad guys aren't perfectly bad and good guys aren't perfectly good. So if you let yourself swallow that pill and just be like, these are two very flawed individuals, right? And sort of run through your grid of conscious and the reality of like, how is this really going to affect the next 4 years? And I mean, a lot of times Christians don't want to believe this, but like the next 4 years of not only my own life, but my neighbor's life, right? How can I esteem my brother higher than myself in my voting? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's one way. And then I think that the other way is to say that like, gain an understanding of Congress and of House of Representatives and councilmen and all those things. There's so many pieces within the governmental structure that you can cause actual change. I was on a conference call that Show ditched for some reason.
My phone was on mute.
Yeah, he ditched it. That one of the assemblymen in New York was basically like, look, man, at its crudest place, like, people in the House of Representatives want their jobs, right? So if you want their jobs, we have the access to them, and it's public domain, their phone numbers, their email addresses, and you can tell them, like, this is what I want you to do, or I'm not voting for you. You know what I'm saying, right? And it's a very simple. He said that there's even guys in these offices that are like, twiddling their thumbs, like waiting for someone, like, please, someone ding me, you know what I mean? Because I want to actually move the needle forward in a way that represents the constituents around me, you know what I'm saying? And you do that. So you can participate in so many more areas than just the presidential election. And my cynicism says that that's probably the least, like, effective thing to do is like who you vote for. That's the least effective thing. All these other things are actually much more effective in moving the culture in a direction that you desire. And then I'd say thirdly, at the end of the day, I mean, shoot me, it's like, just raise godly children. You know what I'm saying? And like, invest in your school and know that like, the earth is not going to blow up if the candidate that you think is the answer, odds are he's not.
But
or
if
she's
it,
not.
But if it does blow up, I think the problem is Christians don't know what to do when we're not the majority privileged culture. Because of Western society has made us to believe that we should always be the director of where culture is going, and that we are the privileged culture. We don't know what to do in famine, right? And so we know the struggle is feast. Like, anytime someone has privilege and power, they're going to try to keep and control it. And they don't want to loosen that.
Inequality seems like oppression.
Exactly.
If you've had privilege the whole time. Once we get equality, it's like, oh my God, I'm suffering. You're like, no, you're not. What are you talking about? You're where the rest of us are. What are you talking about?
And I think white majority Christians have seen that, right? Lately, they're realizing, and this explains the rise of Trump, right? Because Obama put fear in the heart, because now what you're having is more consciousness talk. And so people were like, are we losing our nation? And so now that makes room for somebody to be, to build a platform on a supremacist, to build on supremacist thinking, and which gets people to say, you know what, I do want America to be like it used to be, right? But to add to to affirm better yet what Prop's saying, I think one of the greatest misdirections in politics is to get people to think that the most important part of voting is for the general election. And that's a lie. I mean, so I think even within Chicago, right? They just recently voted out the district attorney, right? So if you're somebody whose heart is bent towards the policing and the criminal justice system here in the city, you did a good job of removing somebody you felt didn't do much for you. But guess what? There's still judges who are that we have to vote in. There's still juries, and there's still councilmen. And so just because you get a DA out doesn't mean that those judges are going to start prosecuting these police officers, right? So you have to start figuring out, because the president doesn't affect the DA and the judge, right? The other thing is we can't just be voting straight ticket, right? And so you have to be aware of who's running and what they're running against and what they're running for, what are their platforms. And I don't think a lot of people are informed in that nature. It takes a lot of work. It does, right? And so to his point, I think it is quite important for us to engage our local governments and to be very vocal, because they'll be shocked when you rally 5 to 10 people and you come and say, hey, we want this. And they're going to listen to you because, like he said, they want their job. And they're going, and in the local political sphere, parties don't matter as much, because when you think about party issues, those are usually on the ground. They're on the state and they're usually on the federal level. So like, are we going to legalize marriage? Are we going to, is abortion going to be legal? But like, those are not going to be issues in city and state levels for the most part. Like sometimes it will be, but on city level, like you're not dealing with it. You're dealing with things that everybody's affected. Like, are our schools going to get funded? Who's going to be our superintendent? What kind of police chief is it going to be? And it doesn't matter what ticket any of these people are running on.
You're like, still going to get up in the morning and sit in traffic.
Exactly,
right? Every morning, you know what I'm saying?
So there you go.
So how do I have a better commute in the morning?
Exactly.
Well, that's not a partisan issue. It's not a partisan issue. And I would even add to that, if your allegiance, as this Western Christian is saying, if your allegiance is so much to the truth of the gospel, then you need to chase it wherever it goes. And if the truth of the gospel lands on a party line that you're not comfortable with, the question is, what really is your allegiance, right? And if that like grates against your aesthetics so much, I think you may have an idol issue, because you're not willing to follow, the cloud by day, if you will, to a place that you think you've already decided there's no way God could go there. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's problematic. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes he may fall here, and other times it may fall there. And if you're willing to truly follow the narrative of redemptive history, right, you're gonna follow it wherever it goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing I will is the challenge to African American Christians in particular. The Democratic Party has used us. They have pimped us for at least 4 or 5 decades, and it's statistically proven that the Black Christians are the #1 voting base for the Democratic Party, but they never consider Black Christians in their platforms. So I have a buddy who's just got accepted to be a delegate. He won to be a delegate in a district where there is a whole lot of black Christians, a strong church population. That's how he won, on strong family values, on biblical truth in a democratic election. You can't win unless you have some sort of connection with church folks, right? So he gets to the delegation, and the things that they're voting for are things that he is justly opposed against. And so that just says, like, we're just going to use you to get our presidential candidate in office, but once we're in office, we're not going to actually service or consider the needs of these particular people when we're writing laws, when we're coming up with policies.
Yeah.
And I think an indictment of that is in Obama. Like, when you think about the people who advocated for Obama, who fought for Obama, many people will say, think of one law that Obama has done that actually benefited African Americans. He's pushed through many laws that have benefited gay and lesbian agenda. He's promoted many laws that have benefited all types of people. But he won because black Christians came out to vote. And the moment that black Christians are sick of being prostituted by the Democratic Party is the moment that they'll see change. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do, is trying to equip people, say, look, these are false choices that you've been presented with. Right?
Because the opposite of that would think that, oh, okay, the Democrats have been pimping me. Let's run to the Republican Party.
Right.
But clearly they don't want you neither. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. But again, we've been led to believe this false dichotomy. You know what I'm saying? I would say, like, pushback on Obama is like, his push to, like, remove the, like,
the felony
box, right?
Yeah.
Right. But to think that actually just serves the black community,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
part of the narrative
Yeah.
we've been sold.
Exactly.
Like, he's doing something for black people. Look,
Yeah.
you don't have to prove you're a felon. Why is that just for,
Absolutely.
like, wait, what? Like, why is that only for black? You know what I'm saying? So, like, things like that, like the 101 law, you move to 18-1. Like, these are great things that affect, that fall along, like poor lines, if
Yeah.
you will. You know what I'm saying? That by and large affect people of color. You know what I'm saying? But like the work that they're trying to do is to say that, like, again, you don't owe any of these structures your allegiance.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
The goal is to de-emphasize party. It's not to, because the reality is, if you want to get things done, you need structures. And you need, leadership without, or freedom without leadership is chaos. So we need some sort of structure. We don't want anarchy. So you need some sort of structures. But the thing is to be subversive within those structures and not to be pimped out and owned by them. So, like, and yeah, I want people to move within their convictions. So if you feel like I can't align with a particular party because the salient issue that I have is abortion, right? So I cannot align myself as a Democrat, then great. But when you're over here with the Republican Party, make sure you have the compassion of the Lord for the people who are less privileged, who are less fortunate. Like, just don't move over to this party and then forget that God has graced you with the true religion of the widow, the orphan, and the poor, while at the same time, over on the left, if you're going to be compassionate to the poor, the widow, and you have some economic issues that you think the government should handle, if you're a Christian, also speak up on issues of family values, right? Don't have this complicit silence. And so I think that's where we're saying is, like, we transcend party, and when I'm talking about we, the AND campaign, trying to communicate that party is important to get things done. You can't get things done in government without being associated with a party. But that doesn't mean you have to sell yourself out. You have to pimp yourself out to these parties. And so the whole thing is, man, like, move within the context of having the conviction of biblical values while at the same having the compassion of the Lord. So, and we don't believe that you have to separate those two. And the fact that people say you have to separate the two, we think it's game. It's like, that's not real. So
He said game, just in case you missed it.
I think I caught that. I think I caught that.
blouses.
Yeah.
So if someone's debating, man, should be Republican, Democrat, Independent, would you say, like, choose one party, or is it better to be independent, or because it's
Yeah, I think that that's the point that we're both making, is that's besides the point. Is the point isn't which one of these parties you align with. You can align with every party you want to.
Absolutely.
But your allegiance first is not to the party. And we're watching that play out. We're watching in the Republican Party right now, dudes being like,
Absolutely.
Yes, I vote for, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because
right.
because you've boxed yourself in by saying, by elevating these boxes to sovereign.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that's the point we're making, is that the boxes aren't sovereign. And you can align wherever you want. And to think that if for example, Show, when he goes into the voting booth, goes into the Democrat box, obviously he doesn't eat everything lock, stock, and barrel that Democrats say. In the same way that, like, you know, my favorite restaurant has plenty of things I don't eat on their menu, right? Doesn't mean it's not my favorite restaurant, right? Like, you know, the fries suck. Like, still love the restaurant, right? You know what I'm saying? So I think that, like, again, for the believer, I think that would be both of our hope. That's why we started the whole, like, summer resistance and, like, the awake party, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, yo, just be awake. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you can align yourself wherever you feel, but I understand that, like, people are very complex, you know what I mean? And your allegiance, like you said, is something greater than just those party lines. So we would be like, you know, if somebody would ask me, I'd be like, man, you tell me. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's besides the point.
Carlos makes a dope point in his lectures. He says when the Civil Rights Party is similar to the Hebrews in Egypt, the Civil Rights Party pushed all their coins into, they went all in with the Democratic Party. And when they went all in with the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party made a left, that left them there to make a left with them. Similar to the Hebrews when they pushed all their chips in on the existing Pharaoh. When the other Pharaoh came into power, it was a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. It's like, what do we do? Well, now this Pharaoh want to persecute you now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, like we've given ourselves to a political party without any kind of reciprocation. And like Malcolm X says in Ballad of the Bullet, he says you negotiate. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, you know, don't just jump in with the Democrats or the Republicans. He says, you know what, you negotiate, and whoever's willing to give you the best deal, that's who you go with. And that's kind of like our tactic. It's like, how can we infiltrate systems? How can we infiltrate parties? Get Christians in there that are like-minded to help, like, create healthy conversation dialogue, to change systems and structures. And then while they're there, help negotiate and leverage positions and policies for folks that we think are going to be not just beneficial for Christians, but beneficial for the community or the city or the nation as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what lobbyists did, that's what NRA did. That's what everyone did. You sat down with somebody and said, yo, we want to be able to carry rifles.
How much I gotta pay you?
How much I gotta pay you? Show me, you see all these 5 million people, like, you want them 5 million? Let us know we can carry rifles. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and in that sense, you gotta hand it to them. They went in there knowing what they needed, knowing what they desire. They said, look, this is what we desire. You know what I mean? With sort of some of the grassroots organizations now, they're saying, listen, it's very simple. We need better policing. You know what I'm saying? We need to see people be prosecuted when they're treated unfairly. We need to see oversight committees. We need to see this. Talk to me.
The problem
You know what I'm
is,
saying?
but the problem with some of these grassroots organizations, is that they don't have they don't have real leverage though. Like the NRA, they have old people money. They got old money, right? So they can make, and this is the thing with the LGBT community. This is why they get so many things pushed through. It's because they have great influence and leverage and power, right? The urban Christian doesn't have that leverage to really threaten, like say, hey, what we're gonna do is we're gonna withhold, like what we haven't in the past, right? What we're gonna do is we're going to withhold, like if you withhold your vote, guess what people are gonna start doing? They're gonna start listening to you. And I think with some of the organizations that Trump is talking about is they're doing this. They're starting
setting
to
up leverage.
They're threatening. The whole reason why Bernie Sanders was even a threat to Hillary Clinton is because there were young black activists and white liberal activists who were like, you know what? We are sick of politics as usual, and we're going to extend our influence to a particular person, and gave him the leverage to even threaten Hillary Clinton. Right? It's because they mobilized, and if the Christian wants to have any kind of voice in politics, we have to mobilize, especially urban Christians who understand what it means to be on the wrong end of policing, as well as hold tight to biblical values.
I would say specifically the urban Christian, because The suburban white Christian knows exactly how to mobilize. You know what I'm saying? When there are things that they want shut down. It's just we found that we got the shorter end of the stick there too. Because when we needed that same voter block to come, like, okay, cool, like we marched with you for this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we're being shot in the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Broken stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, what's hilarious though is that they've mobilized, but they've done more of a disservice for Christianity, because what happens is when you push through certain like bills, like say for instance like religious liberty bills, they try to punk it through. They try to intimidate it through without having compassion and communicating. Yeah. Like one of the things that I thought was very shrewd and savvy was Utah, and I don't remember the particular mayor's name, but legislators in Utah, the Mormon Church and the LGBT community came together and said, hey, we know we both kind of want similar. Both want us to flourish. We want to flourish. You want your community to be able to have the rights and liberties to ebb and flow. We want the same thing. Let's come together and create a religious liberty bill that will be beneficial for both parties. That to me is very effective.
That's politics.
Yeah, that's
good politics.
Exactly, right?
That's what it is. Yeah.
So the problem is that the mainstream conservative church and their politics haven't been good negotiators. They haven't been good teammates, right? They haven't. Yeah. They just come through and say, guess what? We doing this religious liberty thing, and you ain't got nothing to say about it. And guess what? The LGBT community is mobilized just as strongly as them, and so they push back. And now you got NBA teams removing, and so what we have to do is in some senses, if there can be more consolidation and more solidarity within the voice on the urban side and the mainstream evangelical side, and there can be more compassion communicated within why we want policies pushed through, there will be less intimidation on the end of the left or individuals.
And you know what that is? That's true Christian living.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. What that Mormon church exercised was Christian charitable.
Because you're thinking about natural law.
You're thinking about natural, I can see you are an image bearer, right? Absolutely. And you desire for your families to flourish just like I do, right? And I'm going to give you that and give you the dignity that is deserved of you because I believe in a God that dignified you.
All pluralism ain't bad pluralism. Yeah. And so that's the idea. Is like, I want them to be, this is one of the things I never protest. I don't protest the censorship of Donald Trump, right? I want Donald Trump to be able to say the most ridiculous things he wants to say, because I want to be able to critique the ridiculous things he has to say. Yeah. And the moment we start putting censorship on people to be able to be as racist or stupid as they want to be, then guess what? You yourself are going to be right. Yeah. There's going to be a great sedition act that's going to be put on me, because guess what? The moment you speak out against in the same sense, like the moment we start restricting people to exercise the freedom of their faith or whatever, in a sense, that same restriction is going to be put on us. Yeah. And so there is some sense of give and take and compromise that needs to happen within the idea of pluralistic living in America, because we first have to concede to the fact that we are not a Christian nation, that we've never been a Christian and never were a Christian nation. And so once we come to that, then we recognize that a lot of our beliefs and views are secularists and have been secularists, and
just let it go. Yeah. Like once you let it go, then we can actually have like a conversation that might push through the values that you desire. Just let it go.
Absolutely. You know? And I think Russell Moore's book Onward and Bad Religion by Rice Douthat talks about the deconstruction of the Bible Belt being a good thing. Like the Babylon's falling in a sense, because that's an idol, right? Yeah. Because in a sense it's also become like nationalism, like patriotism is replaced like this idea of Bible. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like Christianity almost means patriotism, and it's like if you come against America, you're not even like. It's like, bruh. Yeah. Are we serious?
Yeah, you don't understand either of these.
Exactly. Right.
You don't understand your faith or your nation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
nailed it.
That actually has to be done. Yeah, we're done.
Okay. Cool. Now you want to end it?
Thank you very much.
No, that was it.
That's how we ended it.
Nailed it.